Good evening and welcome to the program. This is the Limelight and my name is Prince Apollo. Now, let's talk about a proposed plan by government to relocate Luzira Maximum Security Prison from its current location in Akawa Division, Kampala, capital city, to Buikwe District. This information came out through a letter by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, affirming that indeed he is in total support of the move to relocate Luzira to pave way for an investor who will develop the prison land into a 5-star hotel. Now, this plan has actually attracted mixed reactions, both from those who think that it is important for this prime land to be utilized and developed instead of having a prison, but of course others saying that relocating Luzira prison to Buikwe district will also have its disadvantages, including the burden to transport prisoners from Buikwe to Kampala capital city, where higher courts are situated, especially those who are on capital offenses, and many other issues. But let's connect with Honorable Captain Francis Babu, former minister, former member of parliament, and you are on the limelight. And let me ask you quickly, do you think it is a good idea to relocate Luzira prison from its current location to Buikwe district or not, and why?
Well, thank you very much and good evening. Good evening to our viewers. One, we are talking about something very interesting. It's a proposal. As far as I'm concerned, it's in the very early stages where the president is talking to his cabinet, if you like, members of his cabinet, on the possibility. And stop using the word 5-star hotel. It's an international conference center. If you go to a place like Kigali and Nairobi, you'll find that they've got a very big international conference center. Now, an international conference center, depending on what you want to use it for, is usually very important for a country. It's the same as stadium. Now, on the other hand, I wanted you to understand that that prison was built in 1927. It was built on government land. Government means it's the people's land. Now, if the people want to have a physical planning that says you should change the prison through their government, they can do so. It is gazetted as a prison land, but it can be changed. And normally when there is development, that does happen. It has happened in many countries. Like in San Francisco, there was a very important prison called Alcatraz. It was a little island, a rock in the sea. It stopped being a prison and it's turned into a museum. Now, it really depends what the country wants. And I think there's been a misconception. Physical planning of the country has got laws. And as long as you follow those laws, you're doing very well. So it depends on what government wants. If the government wants to change that place to another place, they'll look at the advantage and disadvantage of doing so. Of course, it sounds a little bit funny because it's not happened before. But this has happened also to schools. It has happened to markets where government has changed these things and something has happened. And you know, Ugandans have got to learn as development continues, the shape of the city will change and people will also change, maybe wanting to have their prison somewhere else. In some other countries now, prisoners and prisons has now gone into the private sector where a prison is owned by a company or a firm. So it really depends what the government wants. And since we're in the early stages, I think we should give it a bit of time so that we can get the true picture of what is required.
Oh yes, Honorable, let's talk about some of the responses that are coming from and some of the opinions that are being put forward. For instance, others think that taking this maximum prison from its current location, relocating it to another place, will also destabilize its monumental importance. For instance, in other countries, some of these establishments that have been in place for a very long time, they are not easily relocated. They are actually preserved and kept in place, of course, for preserving history and other things. What do you think, Honorable, about that opinion?
I've got a little bit of a problem with our people and their views. I respect other people's views. Unfortunately, some people are exaggerating what is going on. That prison was 1927. It's supposed to hold a very few number of people. It's got about 8 times the number of people who are supposed to be there. If you got a place where you can build a prison which can take all the people you need and is built on modern methods, I don't see what's wrong with that. I think we should sit down and think very carefully. Is moving that prison an advantage or a disadvantage? Now, you might argue that some part of that prison might be a remand prison, where people are taken on remand and taken to court tomorrow. You can have a small prison like that near Kampala. You've got Kigo, you've got a few others not very far from here. So it really depends what your debate is all about. But as far as I'm concerned, if they can build us a modern prison with all the facilities that are required, then I don't see what the argument is all about. The question is, how big is that land in Buyukwe, and how big would the prison look like? Buyukwe, you know, is towards the River Nile. It's a fertile part of the country. Is it a good place to have a prison or not? Then the argument of destabilizing, I don't think there is destabilization. I think it's a matter of change, like shifting from one house to another. But it depends. My worry is the implementation. Can you implement what you've said? You want a prison, and that prison, remember, it is supposed to take maybe 1,500 people. You have 8,500 people in prison. Can this new prison be able to take everybody? If that is so, then I don't think the debate has got to have any waters at all, except for wishing and liking. As far as I'm concerned, a prison can be anywhere. But the further away it is from town, the better. And if they're going to put an international conference center, like the one they have in Nairobi, one here, the one in Arusha, and so on and so forth,
weigh out the suspicions and fears amongst some or sections of the people. Some people relate this particular proposal and project to those other projects that have come before, including the relocation of Shimon Demonstration School and, of course, and other projects which have been implemented on government land. And they think that possibly it could fall victim of what happened with other projects that were proposed on government land. And good enough, you have been a leader in this city, and we would want to hear from you. Do you think these suspicions and fears really have substance?
Yeah, that's why when I was giving you my conversation, I said I hope the implementation can be done correctly. Mistakes which have been done in the past should not be repeated in a case like this. We must have a good prison, modern, and if possible, with all the facilities that are required. If that can be done, well and good. But if you are doing it to get rid of the place because of land, then it's unfortunate. But if you are doing it because you are going to give us a better prison and in a better facility, which will be built on modern level, and then as far as I'm concerned, there's no problem. Usually, you know, if mistakes which are done are known, and therefore those who implement whatever is decided, you know, it is on their head. If they don't do it correctly, they will shame the whole country, and we'll go back to square one. But as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing wrong with the proposal. The people who can answer most of those questions, which are technical, will be the physical planning authority of this country, Can they tell us about the movement, how it is going to be looked, and probably even give us a picture of what they think? But this, of course, will come after the president and his cabinet and the members of government have sat down and discussed it thoroughly. They haven't finished discussing it.
Well, Honorable, let's also expound on another fear that is in a section of Ugandans, and it is about the prison visits, especially from family members of those inmates. And they think that this will be another problem, having people to visit their family friends who are actually inmates in prison, and they have to travel all this long distance from either from Entebbe or Kampala or elsewhere, and they have to travel to Wikwe. What do you think that looks like?
Maybe that can help us so that people don't go to prison. They should not do the wrong things. As far as I'm concerned, really, the prison can be anywhere. That argument does not hold water. As far as I'm concerned, a prison is a prison wherever it might be. We have prisons all over the country. We have prisons in Fort Portal. We have prisons in near Jinja. We have prisons in different places. As far as I'm concerned, really, that is a very shallow argument. The argument should be, can they give us a modern prison that can hold the number that we have in prison and has got all the facilities that are required? Where that prison is really irrelevant. To bring people to certain courts, like the Supreme Court and the Appeal Court, that's an argument. And at the same time, remember, some of these courts also do sit in circuits. You have courts which will be near in Jinja, and maybe which is nearer the prison, and so on and so forth. As far as I'm concerned, I think that is something that can be resolved.
Oh, then let's also look at a matter of procurement, and it's about competitive bidding. For such a project, you'll expect this bid to be advertised, and then of course it goes through competitive bidding. But this time round, from the letter we saw authored by His Excellency the President, a developer has already been identified, and he's a Chinese investor by the names of Tian Tang. So it looks like the deal has been sealed, and there won't be competitive bidding for developing this particular piece of land, Luzira prison. And what do you think about that? Do you find any anomaly about that that arrangement?
No. You see, I think from what I read in the letter, the President said that the Minister of Internal Affairs and the people who are concerned, including the different contract committees, and they should look at the offer that this group has given. And but by the way, there's this attitude about the Chinese. As long as we don't get poor contractors and we get really good contractors from China, they have produced some fantastic edifices in their country, roads, bridges, and whatnot. And I think we should give them the opportunity. Maybe government should look into it. Therefore, our people who are concerned with the contracts and the people who are experts, engineers, and so on and so forth, should be the one we should be pointing to. Please make sure you get us a good contract and make sure that they do the good job. That's our job. And every time you talk about contractors, you forget that they are supervised by the government of Uganda. So the supervision group should be called to order if they don't do the right thing.
Finally, from me, Honorable Francis Babu, talk about other government projects that have, of course, been given out to foreign investors. Are you really contented and satisfied with how all these projects have turned out? I mean, in terms of the benefit to citizens, there are many of them. We have had very many investments being, of course, undertaken by foreign investors, Chinese or Italians, and what. What is your opinion as we close this broadcast?
Yeah, but I don't think we should put it as Chinese. We should put it to the contractor. The contractor could be Chinese, could be American, could be Japanese. If you get a good one, well and good. If you don't get a good one, very unfortunate. Let's look at very carefully at the Tanzanian group who got the Turkish who did their roads. Their roads are superb. The Turkish have got very good engineers. Have they done the same? And if you look at the Chinese, some of the roads they have done in their countries and the bridges, and some of the things, they have got very good contractors. The question is, are we getting the right contractors or are we getting cheap contractors? Our people who are supervising these contractors, are they the supervisors or the consultants who supervise them? Are they doing a good job? I think this is where the problem is. The problem is we tend to jump to the contractor and we forget that in between there, between the government of Uganda, there are consultants, there Uganda has got supervisors and who are supposed to supervise the contractors. Now, if they don't do a good job, I think we should get hold of those who are supervising in the government and the consultants.
Sorry, from me talking about government projects, let me pick your opinion on how Ugandans have been involved in these multi-billion projects, and whether you think they have been given a fair chance to also undertake multi-billion projects. Because when you look at, for instance, the Nachivubo Stadium project and others which have been undertaken by local investors. Do you think we have built capacity to undertake multi-billion projects in this country?
Well, first and foremost, let's try and understand. A group of people come and ask to be given a contract to do government advertises. It says we want a road, we want a bridge, we want a stadium, we want an international conference center. And they look at the different groups of people. Now, unfortunately, some of our people also have not performed very well as contractors. But me, in my sincere opinion, the problem is with consultants and supervisors of those projects. They are the ones we should really be pointing our fingers to. And these are the most important people. Now, if, for example, a supervisor engineer who is supposed to check the quality of materials, the measurements of the thickness of the road and so on and so forth, is not doing a good job, as far as I'm concerned, the contractors will take advantage because they want to save. So as far as I'm concerned, really at the end of the day, is the government of Uganda choosing the right consultants, the right engineers to supervise, or are we leaving it to chance? And I think this is where we must really talk very seriously. And then, of course, there is the most famous word, mismanagement, or what you people call corruption. If there is corruption, and it has happened before in this country, I remember the Katosi Road and many others, and including the Northern Bypass, and the people who were involved in all this, and the government has not come out very straight to tell us why they have not done a good job. Even Ginger Road at one time had a problem around the Mabira area. We know about all these. The question is, with all this mismanagement of some of these things, what has government done about it? And I think this is where people are concerned. And I think Ugandans are right to be concerned. If there are people within government who are not doing a good job, we should tell them they are not doing a good job. And the government should pick up the pieces and correct the situation. Of course, mistakes are made. And I hope that in this particular case, they will not make a mistake in this particular prison. They will give us a good prison. And so on and so forth. I think this is where we must look at the big picture, not only small little differences, you know. I don't believe so and so. No, let us respect our people in government and let them correct the mistakes that have happened before.
Thank you so much, Captain Honorable Francis Babu. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, we have to wait to see how this works out. The plan is ongoing and is underway, and we wait to see how all this project will work out. My name is Prince Apollo. Thank you for your time. And Honorable Francis Babu is a seasoned politician former member of parliament and former minister and an entrepreneur. Thank you so much. Let's catch up next Friday in another edition of The Limelight. God bless you and God bless Uganda. Coming up is Emisinji with Pastor Aloza Subichingo, so you don't need to dare go away. Good evening.